This is evaluation. They need to see who can frankly play,
Okay.
who can play against the Chicago Bears backups. And as a sound with Pete Carroll is going to allude to, unfortunately, there were a lot of guys who showed last night they can't play.
Yeah. What do you hear here?
I'm going to check on the tacklers, the guys that are missing them. I think that's the most important thing to me right now. I want to see who's missing tackles and fix that problem. I don't think it's like a epidemic kind of thing. It looked like that last week a little bit, but we got to clean some stuff up with some guys that and if they don't get it right, then they won't be able to be here. We'll get guys that can.
What do you hear there?
Marquise Blair did not tackle well last night, and obviously had the big hit, and that's a sudden play and every bang bang play. But he had 2-3 missed tackles.
Mm-hmm.
If you had missed tackles, you're going to have a tough tell the truth. Well, not Friday, but Saturday when they get back in there to work. And it's just inexcusable. I think that was the thing that was frustrating. Pete's opening statement of, hey, this was a lesson learned. He's not discouraged. He's disappointed because he wants his brand of football to be what? Bar none. You get beat. You lose games. You make mistakes. That's the league, man. That's the NFL. But he does not want to put a product on that field on national television, their only home game in the preseason, that's not physical. And that's what's got to be the most disturbing, right? Freddie Swain, opening series of the game. Come on, man. Don't have alligator arms. That's a beautiful throw. You're going to get hit. You saw the Bears receivers run into collisions, get just killed on slant routes or hole shots. Caught it, got up, let's go. And you can't do that on the perimeter. And you're missing some tackles, and you're coming up from safety, and you're just whiffing. And that's not Pete Carroll football. Will he live with some mistakes? Sure. Are they inevitable? Absolutely. When you're playing as many young people, we better get used to it in Seattle. But what he will not tolerate in special teams are bad angles, bad leverage, and not willing to pull the trigger. What he will not tolerate is a receiver coming across the middle with alligator arms. What he will not tolerate are defensive players at the second and third level, the position that he played, that can't or won't come down and lay the wood. That is not acceptable to the head coach.
Yeah, here's some more from Pete.
Man, there just seems to be so many lessons for us right here. We got a big list, and there's some really obvious things in just trying to win a football game that, the penalties and the special teams give me is, the 100 yards in returns or something like that, setting up scores and all. It's really hard to win when you play like that. It's hard enough anyway. So there's big lessons, and I have to really zero in on the guys that are having the problems. Like Charles had problems on the line of scrimmage in this game. Had 4 penalties on procedure penalties and stuff that you obviously can clean up in all different situations. But though we have to get that out of your football. You can't play football like that. It's bad.
How does you've got to get that out of your football. How does a Pete Carroll handle those things? Because he's not going to make him run laps till he pukes. I mean, what does a Pete Carroll do?
I think that's a fair question.
What does he do next?
I think there's 2 avenues. I think between Pete and John, you just make statements with personnel that you move people, right? That you trade them. And unfortunately, Arcega-Whiteside had multiple opportunities last night and just couldn't deliver, and showed why Philly was willing to trade for him. And so, just personnel-wise, you can make a little wake-up call. And I know in the final week of the preseason, that's going to happen anyway at the end of the week, but maybe you do it earlier and just say, whoa, man, so-and-so is out of here. I know that's always one of the medicines that was used and has been since from my era on. Like, geez, yeah, they mean business. Hushman's out of cut, Lindell White out, right? We've seen those kind of moves made. So that's in your back pocket is one. On the field, Mike, this is where you ask the Jamal Adams and the Quandre Diggs and the DK Metcalfs, and you demand that they set the tone and they be the voice to deliver. Hey, man, this lack of physicality and this lack of willingness to pull the trigger and knock people out, that's not how we do things here. What's hard is, to your point, not only do they not run wind sprints, they don't really hit that much anymore.
Right.
That's the other thing that makes it difficult. And
so how do you get it back?
That's there you go. That's the brain trust sitting in there. That's the brain trust sitting in there today of, okay, how can we amplify some of the violence in these drills and in these tackling drills? How can we amplify some of the competition? This isn't OTAs where we lose draft picks and get fined like they used to, where you had dogs out there doing it and you had to like hold the pit bulls back because they're clawing and tearing at each other. So either you bring a few more of those guys in, or in some measure, and it's not full scale, okay, pads, here we go, live goal line. Ain't doing that. But how do you amplify some of the intensity and some of the violence in your practices and in your drills over the final week, Mike, so you can make the right decisions to see who does have that willingness and that courage, to be as violent as you need to be. They will need to offset, I'll put it like this. They will need to offset their inexperience and some of their talent woes, and obviously their QB, with violence. They have the speed. Okay, he has said that. We've seen that on display at practice, and you've seen it in preseason game 1, and they got enough guys that can run. But who has the Richard Sherman, the Bobby Wagner, the KJ Wright, the Cam Chancellor from day one did not need to be taught violence. That's what they're going to need more of.